Welcome to Procreate Basics. This is the video that you're going to want to review after you sign up for any of my online Procreate classes. This is going to take you through all the basic stuff you'll need to know before we start class, and you'll be able to hit the ground running. So welcome to Procreate Basics. And you're going to open the Procreate app by touching on the black box with the brush. That's going to open up to the last place that you were inside Procreate, and tap on Gallery, and you'll see all of the artworks here. Procreate automatically saves for you. Then let's go to the plus sign in the upper right hand corner, and let's create a new canvas. So you can also make new canvases with different sizes if you want to. Let's make a new one. So we'll tap that black box right there. Depending on how big your iPad is and how big you make the artwork, that will tell you how many maximum layers you can have. We're going to cancel out of that, and we're just going to go new screen size, new canvas, screen size. We'll just tap that. Now that comes in and fills your entire screen. So we're going to pinch down. Let's go back to the gallery for a minute and talk about selecting projects. So I'm back at the gallery, and I have a bunch of projects here, and I want to create some folders. In Procreate, they're called stacks, but I want to create some folders so I can keep things organized. So I'm going to take this untitled artwork and this untitled artwork and this one, and I'm going to put them all in a folder together. So I just grab that, hold it, and drag it on top of the other one. The other one will turn blue, and now you can see that the two of them are stacked on top of each other. Now I'm going to grab this one and go inside this folder, and that will open, and I'm going to drop it. Now you can see I've got the stack. So if I just want to share one, I'll just say select, tap that, and share, and that will give me the option of sharing it in a bunch of different ways. I can also duplicate a project. So say for instance I want to work on this one, but I don't want to do anything to my original file. I can just tap this, tap select first, tap this, tap duplicate. Now it's going to duplicate that file, and so I can work on my second copy of that without ruining my first copy. Now let's talk about the tools. At the top right are your tools. The brushes, there are lots and lots of brushes that are included with Procreate. Next is the smudge tool. And the smudge tool behaves like a finger smudging something. Tap on the smudge tool, and you can smudge with whatever brush you want. I like to smudge with the same brush that I painted with. Smudge tool is highlighted in blue. Willow charcoal is highlighted in blue, so you know that I'm using smudge and willow charcoal. Now I go to my smudge, and let's make it a little bit bigger. The sizes for your brush is over here on the left at the top, and the bottom is the opacity. So I've made my smudge tool a little bit bigger over here, and now you can see I can smudge that. Next up is my eraser. Let's go back to willow charcoal. That's going to be my eraser now. So I'm going to erase with willow charcoal just as though I had that as an eraser. Next is your layers panel. The layer that you're working on that's active is going to be blue, and you create a new layer by tapping on the plus sign, and you can move the layers around simply by holding them and moving them around. Next up, we're going to talk about gestures. There are 3 of them that you're going to want to know. First of all is undo. So I'm going to make a mark with my brush. I'm going to tap with 2 fingers, and it's going to go away. That's undo. If I want it to come back, I'm going to tap with 3 fingers. That's redo. And if I want to clear the entire layer, I'm going to scrub with 3 fingers and clear it. Your brushes are here. You can see I've got willow charcoal. Your brush sizes are over here on the left. I can make it larger or smaller. And I can also change the opacity. Completely opaque, and almost not at all, right there. That's your brush sizes. Next up is the color picker, and you can see right up here I've got the color dot. I'm going to tap on that, And there are a number of different ways you can look at the color. This is Disc, Classic, Harmony. Whenever you use Harmony, you can see it will give you the complementary color, Value, and Palettes. And if you want to create a palette, just tap the plus sign, create a new palette, and then you can grab any color that's up here and just drop it down here, and it will create a palette for you. Next up, let's talk about layers. Layers are a really important function in Procreate. You can see that I've got layer 2 here, and it's highlighted blue. That means it's the active layer. I'm going to add a layer above that. Now I'm going to change my color to green, and you can see that I can go over that without smearing it, because that layer is above the one below. I can also change the order that these layers are in just by holding that and pulling it down, and then I can put it under the layer above. If I have several layers at once that I want to select, and I'm going to draw on that, now I'm going to select all of these layers. I just slide to the right, and group. Now that's a group. And I can go to my transform tool, which we'll talk about in a minute. Go to my transform tool, and they'll move as a group. Anything I want to do to that group will happen to all of them. Really handy to be able to do that. If I want to take a layer out of the group, I just highlight it and pull it up above the group. Now it's no longer in the group. And you can see if I go to transform, that layer will move independently. Let's talk about masks. This is a really powerful tool in Procreate. So I'm going to take my pink here, and I'm going to just squiggle some pink right here. Now I'm going to mask that layer. Tap there, tap mask. Now you'll see that my color dot turned to black. I'm going to go back to my brush, and I'm going to draw circles. Now you can see that I'm on the layer mask, and I drew in black. Anywhere I draw in black is going to take away from the layer below. This is a really good way to make a non-destructive edit on your layer. Another type of mask is clipping mask. So on this layer right here, I am going to create a shape. I'm going to just draw that triangle, and I'm going to drag my color dot over there and fill it. Now I'm going to put another layer in, and on this one I'm going to call it a clipping mask. On this one here I'm going to choose black, and I'm going to go back to that layer. I've got my studio pen, and I'm just going to draw like this, and you'll see that the black only goes where the pink color is. That is a clipping mask. Another kind of mask is alpha lock. Let's alpha lock this layer right here. Now I'm going to go back to my pen, get my studio pen. I've got black, and I'm going to draw inside the shape. And you can see here that it's inside that shape. Now you may be wondering, why didn't I just do that with the clipping mask? Well, this way I can't move it around or undo it. If I undo it, then my shape goes back to normal. In a clipping mask, I can turn the clipping mask off and on. So here is my layer 2, and I'm going to put a clipping mask on it. Now I'm going to go back to my studio pen in black, and I'm going to go like this. Now you see I can turn my clipping mask on and off without affecting the layer below. That's the difference between alpha lock and a clipping mask. Let's talk about moving things around on the canvas. So I'm on this layer, and I'm going to go to the transform tool. You can see here at the bottom that I've got a number of ways I can transform it: uniform, freeform, distort, or warp. You can have a lot of fun with that. That's the transform tool. Now let's talk about moving some things around. So we've got the selection tool here, which is the one that looks like a little ribbon. And make sure your transform tool is set on uniform before we start this. Go to selection tool and just drop that little gray square and the marching ants. Connect that gray dot back. Get your transform tool, should be on uniform. Now you can cut out pieces of your design. You can flip them, you can rotate them, you can do all kinds of stuff to them. Really handy to have that. Next up, working with layers, opacities, and adjustments. So here's my layer right here, the pink layer. I'm going to tap on the in and I'm going to pull the opacity down so that I can see through it. Now you can see through that. Now let's go one over from your selection tool is the adjustments panel. Let's tap on hue, saturation, and brightness, and we can change the hue, the saturation, and the brightness of that layer right there. We can do it either on the entire layer or we can do it just where the pencil draws. So if I just draw with my pencil here, it's going to just change the hue in that area, as you see when I move the hue around, because that's just where I drew with the pencil. We can also change the layer by giving it a Gaussian blur. So we'll go to the adjustments, go to Gaussian blur, and as I drag my finger across, this Gaussian blur will get more or less. You can see how it's blurring that layer, really blurred, and I can slide back down so it's only slightly blurred. Another really fun tool in Procreate is Quick Shape. Make sure Quick Shape is turned on, go to the wrench, go to Preferences, come down to Gesture Controls, and make sure you have Quick Shape turned on. Procreate will make a geometric shape from just about anything you do. So I can go like that, and it's going to make the line straight. And as long as I hold on the end, I can move it. Once I lift my pen, I can't move it anymore. It'll also do that for you with a circle and a square. And if I don't move my pen, I can change that. Once I pick up my pen, I'm not going to be able to change the size, but I can still edit the shape. Once you have the shape that you like, after you edit it, just tap, and now it's locked in. And of course, don't forget, you can bring your color dot over here to fill any shape. Let's look at the brushes and how you can customize your brushes. So I've got Studio Pen here. If you're going to customize any of your brushes, I recommend that you duplicate them first. So I'm going to slide to the left and duplicate that. Now you can see it's got that little brush mark on it. That means it's a duplicate. So I can tap it and I can change all kinds of stuff. So you can just play around with those things, right? Just play with them and have fun with it. But make sure you duplicate the brush first. This is your Actions panel. You can change the interface from light to dark. It will give you information about the canvas. It will allow you to share in different formats. It's also the place where you can see the time-lapse video of everything you've done. I recommend you leave that turned on so that you'll always have that time-lapse video. And you can export the time-lapse video here. Then go to Preferences, and this is going to give you things like gesture controls. All of these things can be customized to just about any way you want them. Let's look at Canvas, and let's look at Drawing Guide. Drawing Guide is a really good way to do things like perspective drawing and also things like mandalas that are repetitive pattern. So we're going to edit Drawing Guide. We're going to go down here to the symmetry, and we're going to turn on symmetry. And then we're going to go to Options, and we're going to turn on radial and rotational. And now once you do that, you'll see that this layer has a little word assisted. Anytime you want to use this particular drawing guide on a layer in this artwork, make sure that you tap and put on Drawing Assist. Now, if I go back to layer 1, I'm going to take my studio pen, and I've got pink, and this is rotational and radial symmetry. And so it's going to do whatever I draw in one quadrant is going to be replicated in all of them. So I'm going to go into Preferences, and I'm going to go to Canvas, into Actions, and into Canvas, and I'm going to go Edit Drawing Guide. I'm going to take Symmetry off and put in Perspective. Now you'll see it says tap to create a vanishing point. I'm going to tap right here. Now I've got a vanishing point that has those lines. I'm going to make those nice and thick so you can see them. And actually I'm going to come in just a tiny bit so you can see those lines. So now if I draw on those lines, it will create those lines in perspective. So I'm going to say done. I've got my pink here. I'm just going to draw, and you can see it draws in perspective for me. Another really handy tool in Procreate is the ability to add a photo or text. So I'm going to go to the Actions, I'm going to Canvas, and I'm going to add and insert a photo. So here's a photo. I'll insert that photo. I can pinch it out. And I'm on layer 2. If I want to add a layer above it, I can add a layer above it, make the opacity of my photo a little less, go and make my color black. I've got my studio pen. Let's make it a little smaller. Now I can literally trace that image and use it as an underpainting if I want to. And then of course hide that and paint on top. The other thing you can do with an image that's really cool is you can use an image as a reference. So I'm going to go to Canvas, and I'm going to turn on Reference and Image, and it'll ask me to import an image. And here's that same image. I'm going to grab it and pull it over here so I can see what I'm doing. Can make that a little bit bigger, I can make it square, whatever, but now I can use that image and draw from that image. I've got blue turned on, but you get the idea here. Even pinch in, and like say you're just working on that part of the canvas, you can work there and then move over, work here, and so on. So you've got a nice reference image to work with. To get rid of your reference image, just tap your gear icon, tap reference, and it'll zoom away. Let's add some text. Tap your Actions or your gear icon, tap Add, and you've got text, and you can use your keyboard or you can write, whatever you prefer, and you can also change the font and the size, and it's all right there in that menu. Finally, the last thing you want to do is export and share. So here's your video. You can export your time-lapse video. It'll ask you what length you want to export it at. You can share here in all these different file formats as well. So that covers a lot of the basics for you. Thanks for joining me in this Procreate Basics video. Be sure you sign up for a Procreate class with me online, live. You can do that at acrylicdiva.com, and I'll see you in class.